everybody, it's your friendly neighborhood mailman, the Trojanpear, here on the final episode of our quarantine lockdown series of Trojanpear's Food Club. The first two videos which I did on this series consisted of me talking about the Columbus Eats Food Tours event that we went to in 2019. The second video talked about the food truck event, the Columbus Uptown Food Truck. And this one that we're going to be going over today is very appropriate for this time of month because this would have been the time that we would have been going to it. Yes, this is the time for the Georgia National Fair in Perry, Georgia. So I'm going to talk about my experiences a little bit from Perry because last year in 2019 was the first year that I and my sister both got to go to it. And so I'll show you a few of the pictures that we took while we were there. Certainly not as many as probably I would like to do, or at least in terms of if I actually went there this year, maybe doing a video of it, but just to give you a little taste of what was going on. So we decided in 2019 to go to Perry, Georgia and the Georgia National Fair. We made a trip. If Perry's about hour and a half thereabouts away from where I live, so we took that trip out over there, and we made our way to the parking lot. And it was very interesting when we first got there because they put us in a grassy parking lot, and we spent a lot of time planning for this. As you can see, it was really early, so there was lots of parking still available at the time. Now, it would start to fill up as the day would go on, especially because that year apparently was a record year for Perry's Georgia National Fair, as they had more people come that year than they ever have had. So we got out of our car and we, made all the preparations before going out to the fair itself, because one of the big things that we wanted to make sure was that we had a great experience with it. We planned out how early we wanted to go, how late we wanted to stay, some of the spots we wanted to at least just hit, just to kind of see, not really spend a lot of time in several places, because we just wanted to really see what this place had to offer, what maybe next time we went there we might spend more time on in the future. You certainly could have spent like a whole day there, but we definitely didn't want to do that because we had plans for doing other things. So we made our way down to the main part of the fair. Some of the different signs and whatnot we passed along the way that were there as well. When we first got there, we noticed the fair part of the area, which is more like what our fair would have been like, where the games and the fair vendors would be. And that was closed at that point because we went early enough that we wanted to see some of the other parts of the fair first. And so that part we would go to once they opened up, which would have been a little bit later. I think it was like 11 o'clock. And so one of the first parts that we actually went to was a part where they had all these little science fair exhibits. You see there that they have all these blue ribbons and first, second, third place for these things. This is here looks like a sewing machine that somebody put there. So there's lots of different categories. It was huge. We were actually quite fascinated by all the different stuff that they had there. Here's one where there's a throw, and it has historic Macon County, Georgia on it. And we really didn't spend a whole lot of time there because I knew we couldn't, and it was really big. There was a lot of stuff there. But this is definitely one area that I think in the future we probably would spend a little more time on. Here's some arts and crafts projects that people did. Of course, there's one with cats on it, real cute. Once we got out of that area, there were other little areas as well. One had a more agriculturally based area. Here's an area that has sort of a beekeeping little display there where they've got bees in it, and of course they're selling honey for people to have, to taste and whatnot. And they had a few little vendors in there as well for that. There was also live animals there that you could look at and whatnot, like cows. They had birthing areas that were constantly updating you on when a new baby calf was being born and whatnot. So we kind of breezed through all that different stuff, probably as quickly as we could. We also decided then to take a break and have one of the many food vendors that we would feature there. Now, my stomach had not been doing too great around that time, so I wanted to definitely be careful as to not really irritate myself so bad that would ruin the overall experience. So, first place we went to was a donut vendor. It had a sort of breakfast there. And then we went to another vendor that sold these specialty drinks. And they actually, at this one, which is the Southwest Soda Saloon, you see the cup there that we got with it, they give you cups that you can then use to refill later on. It was a very good drink, and it was very nice, a little keepsake that we got from that. Now, after that time, a lot of the fair rides and whatnot started to open, so we decided, well, let's get going over there. Now, some picture I don't have was at one point early on we were doing there were some specialty rides that were opening early on, such as a little boat paddling ride where you could do that. That was one of the early things that we did. And they also had some other rides I'll talk about in a minute. But then when the main fair part opened, we went to these various attractions, bought some tickets, and got to go on things like this ghost ride here where you ride around, typical type fair ride that you would have. There were many other different attractions. I didn't get a whole lot of pictures of the attractions, Ferris wheels. There's like little mini roller coasters and things like that. Then we didn't want to take too long on that stuff because obviously we were hungry, and one of the things that we had there as great options was there were a ton of vendors, and I had mapped out a lot of vendors that I wanted to be able to try. One that I had thought about trying and we didn't do was this restaurant here. It was definitely a very interesting idea to be able to go in, especially if it's hotter, to kind of get out a little cool from maybe some of the direct sunlight and heat and whatnot. But we were doing pretty good from that. We eventually had some like tater tot vendor, and we've periodically at that time was having different things throughout the experience. But that's just one that I think maybe I would probably want to try next time. Also, we would eventually get back to one of the main rides, and they had what was these sort of sky lift rides where you can ride for probably a good 10 minutes in the air along the entire line of the fair and get to be able to see all the different attractions and whatnot that are going on in the fair. This is an image of what the fair looks like from that high image. Here's another one, some of the stuff that they have as well. And there was one more that I have there, kind of shows us the rides in front of us as well. Those were all very interesting things that we got to experience. Again, we were trying to kind of go through this as quickly as possible. We did a few of the rides. We did a few of the vendors. I tried to be very careful with everything I had. We had an enjoyable time with everything that we did. Ultimately, it was about, I don't know, maybe 3-ish when we decided to leave. Now they have all these concerts and shows, and we didn't do any of those because knew that would just take too much time, and we wanted to be able to take in everything as much as possible and then be home as close to dinner as possible, because what was going to happen was we were going to head a little bit closer to Macon, Georgia, and pick up a special dinner, which was Godfather's Pizza. There is a Godfather's in Macon. There was not one anywhere near that close to where we live, and so we got over there and ordered our Godfather's pizzas, and somewhat surreal to be able to do that. Did that, and you see the pizza there. One of the pizzas that we got was very good. Enjoyed it a lot, and that was our trip to Perry that year. So I'm hoping that maybe in the next year we'll get to do a video on actually going to it. So that's all I have for this. Next time on Trojanpear's Food Club, I hope to maybe have a more special video series coming up if we can get everything revved up in time here for Thanksgiving. I'm excited to show you what we have in store for that. So until then, this is your friendly neighborhood mailman, the Trojanpear, wishing you blessings. Bye-bye.